You probably have a favorite superhero, but do you have a favorite version of your favorite superhero? Marvel Comics love introducing powered up alternate versions of its main characters just to give them a little extra juice. And today I'm talking about the most powerful versions of Marvel's strongest heroes. Like, is Maestro the strongest version of Hulk? Is Spider-Man with the Enigma Force the most powerful version of that character? What about the version of Thor that merged with the Phoenix Force? Man, there are so many forces. Let's talk more about these characters right now. Thor is obviously one of the strongest heroes in the Marvel Universe already. He's proven time and time again that when you need a heavy hitter, he's the one you should call. Or I guess he's the one you should email? Yeah, he doesn't own a computer, so I guess getting a hold of him is difficult. You just kinda have to hope he shows up where you need him to. Anyways, so there's Thor, then there's Old King Phoenix Thor, and you can bet your bottom dollar this version of Thor is the strongest version of the character. In fact, he's one of the strongest characters in all of the Marvel Universe. If you couldn't guess from the name, this is a version of the God of Thunder that has successfully merged with the Phoenix Force in a storyline that saw the hero trying to beat an all-powerful version of Doctor Doom. Pairing Thor with the Phoenix Force is practically unfair. Both of them are already super strong on their own. They don't need each other to become stronger, at least normally. This whole storyline was a special circumstance. Spider-Man is a fun hero because he's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man dealing with street-level threats, but he's also often drawn into battles with all sorts of mystical entities and cosmic beings. He just works practically in any story. And there have been a lot of strong versions of Spider-Man over the years. Like the Spider-Man with a bunch of extra arms? Yeah, how you gonna beat that, huh? Try blocking a punch and boom, another punch comes your way. But besides multi-armed Spidey, there's also a version of the character who was permanently fused with the Enigma Force, one of those all-powerful cosmic entities like the Phoenix Force I just mentioned. The original timeline had our Peter Parker merge with the Enigma Force briefly before giving it up. But a later comic showed a different universe version of Spider-Man who had never made that choice. I mean, if you stay the cosmic Spider-Man, then your little problems like having to deal with paying rent or J. Jonah Jameson slandering your name sound like small potatoes. And he just looks awesome. It's a shame that this didn't last very long. In the Spider-Verse storyline, we see Enigma Force Spider-Man, but he was quickly beaten by Solus and his spider essence was consumed. Bummer. The reason I find Hulk so fascinating is how complex the different versions of the character can be. Hulk himself is so straightforward in initial concept. He's a normal man who, when he gets angry, loses control and turns into a hulking beast. But Marvel Comics have done a great job in expanding the lore behind the character and making Bruce Banner and his alter ego one of the most fascinating and strongest characters in Marvel Comics. And there are a surprising amount of different, stronger versions of Hulk out there that this one is tough to choose. Red Hulk, Grey Hulk, Worldbreaker Hulk, all of those are worthy contenders, but I wanted to take this entry and choose Maestro as the strongest version of the Hulk out there right now. This version is stronger, more intelligent, and infinitely more ruthless than a lot of his counterparts. He's an alternate future version of the Hulk, and when our regular Hulk has to face him, he almost doesn't win. Maestro is terrifying because he's so powerful and also super smart. Sometimes you don't get that balance in your different Hulk versions. And the real reason why I chose Maestro for this entry was to say that I think Maestro would be an excellent villain in a standalone Hulk MCU movie. I know it's a long shot and the rights are super complicated, but Hulk is one of the most underserved characters in the MCU, and he deserves his own solo movie at this point. Captain America is great on his own, but let's be real, he's not the strongest hero around. Like, yeah, he's a great leader and one of the best hand-to-hand fighters in the MCU, but if you had to put him up against characters like Thor or Hulk in a strength contest, then you'd probably bet on Thor and Hulk. But there's one version of Captain America that's a little more unique than normal, and I'm talking about the Soldier Supreme. This was during the Warp World storyline, which basically happened because Gamora used the Infinity Gems to fold the universe forced in half and a lot of characters were merged together. So Captain America was fused with Doctor Strange, and the rest is history. And it wasn't just a merging of powers, but also backstories. Like in this reality, Steven Rogers did undergo the super soldier serum treatment, but its ingredients consisted of magical properties, so it ended up giving Steven Rogers the power of sorcery. So this had cool combinations, like Steve being an expert super soldier leader extraordinaire like normal, but also did things like helped him use spells to create a magical shield to use against his opponents. I think because of this merge, it gave Cap the most powerful version of himself. There's a lot of different powerful versions of Iron Man out there, but the one I want to talk about is Superior Iron Man. Yes, you have your versions of Tony Stark that have suits so powerful they can break the cosmos or things like that, but the reason I chose the Superior Iron Man is to show what can happen if Tony wasn't a good guy. Tony Stark has always been a hero who tries to do the right thing, but has often made some terrible decisions on top of his ego and arrogance. So imagine a version of the character that has those personality characteristics, but had the intent of controlling the world in his image. Yeah, that version of Iron Man is the most powerful to me. Superior Iron Man is everything we love about our normal Iron Man, but just working on the side of evil, which highlights just how thin the line is between good Tony and evil Tony. I also wanted to bring this up because I think Superior Iron Man would make an excellent threat in a future MCU movie. Maybe this version comes from a different universe and he's trying to protect his own universe from destruction during Kang's eventual wrath? Every so often, Marvel and DC work together for fun and wacky crossovers, and this has led to the strongest version of Doctor Strange imaginable. So Doctor Strange is the big magic user over in the Marvel universe, and over on the DC side of things, his counterpart is Dr. Fate, about to make waves in live action in the upcoming Black Adam movie played by Pierce Brosnan. So in this warped universe crossover, Doctor Strange and Dr. Fate merged into one to become Doctor Strange Fate. Now that's already pretty cool, right? Well, for an added bit of awesomeness, Doctor Strange Fate isn't Stephen Strange or Kent Nelson, but rather it's Charles Xavier. That's right, on top of being a powerful sorcerer with elements of both Doctor Strange and Dr. Fate, this hero also has telepathy mutant abilities. So he's a genius, he's a surgeon, he's an occultist, he's a martial artist, he has the helmet of Strange Fate, he can just do it all. That's basically three of the most powerful heroes across all comic universes smushed together into one powerful hero. Okay, I'm gonna be honest here. The strongest version possible of Wolverine is the one that absorbed the Phoenix Force. But I already talked about Thor merging with the Phoenix Force at the start of this list, so I don't want to just retread about what makes the Phoenix Force super powerful. So I'm gonna choose another version of Wolverine that I think is the most powerful second version. There's a good amount to choose from. I could say Old Man Logan, I could say Laura Kinney, who is a Logan clone who's stronger, I could even say the Earth 12025 version of Wolverine who has an adamantine-coated skeleton, which is a mystical metal that gods from Olympus use, but nope, I'm not gonna say any of those chumps. I'm going with Lord of the Vampires Wolverine. That's right, Vampire Wolverine, baby. This was in a What If comic and followed a storyline where Dracula bit Wolverine, Logan turned and then eliminated Dracula and thereby became the Lord of the Vampires himself. What followed was a bloody rampage where Wolverine, now equipped with classic vampire hypnotic powers, started basically a war with New York, taking a lot of the X-Men out in the process. Oh shoot. Remember how I just said I didn't want to choose Wolverine with the Phoenix Force because I had already talked about Thor with the Phoenix Force and I didn't want to repeat myself? Well, I'm a big hypocrite. Because I'm talking about the Enigma Force again, making another Spider-Man hero a Captain Universe version. I just wanted to talk about Wolverine as a vampire, okay? Okay, anyways, Miles Morales also fused with the Enigma Force to become a Captain Universe, granting him all kinds of cosmic energy. I'm bringing this up because I wanted to pose the age-old question between which version of Spider-Man do you prefer, Peter Parker or Miles Morales? If their versions of Captain Universe fought, who would win? Well, given everything we saw Miles Morales do with the Enigma Force and the Captain Universe moniker, I kinda gotta go with him, right? A common theme that's becoming apparent on this list is that a character who gets infused with cosmic powers basically becomes the strongest version of themselves, and that's what happened with Ghost Rider. I mean, Ghost Rider by himself already is a hero who can melt your face off just by looking at you, so he's already scary. But then there's a version out there that fused with the power cosmic and became Galactus's new herald. Talk about a power overload. So what happened was this. This takes place in a Thanos-centric comic, in an alternate timeline where Frank Castle, aka the Punisher, died, but then made a deal with Mephisto that allowed him to bond with the Spirit of Vengeance to become the new Ghost Rider. Cool, right? No. Because he came back to Earth with all of Earth wiped out. After a long time waiting around doing nothing, one thing led to another where Frank Castle Ghost Rider came across an injured Galactus and agreed to be his herald, and thus the Cosmic Ghost Rider was born. There's a ton of Deadpools to choose from when choosing the most powerful versions of the Merc with the Mouth. I could make a whole list about those guys, but I can only choose one to go on here. Decisions. Well, I'm actually going with Venompool. It's said that Venompool exists in the universe that the Beyonder loves partying in, and Venompool is a go-to party animal, which, yeah, isn't really a big surprise. But I like the Venompool combination because this could have been our main version of Deadpool at one point. We all know that Spider-Man found the Venom symbiote in the Secret Wars arc, and the rest is history. But it was revealed later in a fun retcon that right before Peter Parker stumbled upon the black goo, Deadpool found it first, and there was an almost merge there. But Deadpool's mind was too chaotic for the symbiote to handle, and it jumped ship. But what if it didn't? What if our Deadpool was always Venompool? Think of the mischief and the mayhem those two would get up to. I think the strongest version of Mr. Fantastic is the evil version of himself, aka the ultimate version. Just like the Tony Stark entry a bit earlier when a beloved and intelligent hero breaks bad and turns to the dark side, they prove just how lucky we are to have them on the side of good in our universe. The only downside to the ultimate version of Reed Richards is his villain name. He just goes by The Maker, which if we were ranking on a scale from 1 to 10, I'd give that a solid 3. Where's the menace or the gravitas? Anyways, lackluster name aside, the Maker is still one of the biggest threats in the Ultimate Universe. He's a version of Reed Richards with a few screws loose, and he's determined to usually control and or destroy everything. And he's come close a few times. There was one moment where, thanks to Molecule Man, the Maker could exist in every universe at once. A part of me was sorta hoping the Maker would be the version of Mr. Fantastic we saw in the Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness movie. That way I'd feel less bad when Wanda turned him into spaghetti, but nope, that one seemed like a good enough guy. Too bad. Alright, I've talked about the Phoenix Force with Thor, and I've avoided it with Wolverine, but I didn't want to omit its most famous host. Jean Grey is obviously one of the most powerful telepathic mutants in the universe, and when she goes through her whole Phoenix Force avatar phase, it always causes serious headaches. So would you say the Jean Grey that's merged with the Phoenix Force is the character's most powerful version? Well, sort of, but not in the way that you expect. There's also the White Phoenix. You see, everyone knows the Dark Phoenix, which is basically a result of the host corrupting the Phoenix Force, and it turned Jean into one of the best Marvel villains for a short time. But what if a user did not corrupt the Phoenix Force, but rather merged and became one with it? Well, then you have the White Phoenix, and it's actually more powerful. Who knew that working in tangent with something is better than working against something? I'd say I'd like to see the White Phoenix eventually, but we have to prove that we can do the Dark Phoenix saga in live action first, and that just hasn't worked out so far. When talking about Black Panther, I always think how, if he went to space instead of Star-Lord, he would have averted Infinity War and made the galaxy a better place, just with his general kingly attitude. So that could be the strongest version of the character, right? Not quite. My choice is the one that successfully used the Infinity Gauntlet to take on the god version of Doctor Doom in Secret Wars. The build-up to this was great. Doctor Doom was on a rampage, and Black Panther successfully found the Infinity Gauntlet, which would help even the odds. The fight was this massive display of power that Doom called basically a fight between two gods, and that's totally accurate. T'Challa doesn't come out on top here, but he proves himself more than worthy to battle this godlike Doctor Doom, and it makes the case that maybe Black Panther should just be given all the power all the time. Couldn't hurt that much. How do you improve on almost perfection? Captain Marvel is a hero that's specifically designed to be at her most powerful almost all the time. So is there any version of her that's more powerful than normal? Well, I'd argue yes. One time, Captain Marvel was captured by the Brood and experimented on because of her physiology. This led to them turning her into Binary, which was a being that could tap into the power of a white hole. So yeah, then Binary used those abilities to get revenge and totally wiped out the Brood. She remained a Binary for a bit before going back to Captain Marvel, so if you're thinking of ways Captain Marvel can grow in her upcoming movies, well, maybe Binary is the way to go. So She-Hulk is about to make her big MCU debut with her own Disney Plus TV show, so with that in mind, I wanted to end this list by talking about the most powerful version of Jennifer Walters, aka She-Hulk. And while there were some great options to pick from, I decided to go with Winter Hulk, and she has a lot in common with Bucky Barnes. So apparently Russians love to kidnap people and experiment on them in the Marvel Universe. They snatched Jennifer, performed their whole brainwashing technique on her, which included things like letting vampires feeding on her to make her weak, and turned her into Winter Hulk, a stronger, angrier, redder version of the classic hero. And she came with some fancy new power upgrades. Besides being a single-minded killing machine, Winter Hulk could breathe green fire that incinerated anything in its path. Here's hoping we get to see some of that green fire in She-Hulk. You know, as long as the CGI looks okay, I guess. So these are all the most powerful versions of superheroes, but what about the most powerful versions of villains? Who would be the strongest in that list? Probably Doom when he became God King Doom. That was a serious power upgrade, but what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.